This is Extra Paycheck Podcast, episode number 157.
You're listening to Extra Paycheck Podcast, where you will learn how to build and grow your own successful online business. Now, here's your host, Alex Soul.
Welcome to yet another episode of the Extra Paycheck Podcast. This is episode number 157, and today's special guest is Hugo Hamel. He's the founder of Enrich3, a personalization marketing agency based in Montreal. Enjoy today's show. Hey Hugo, and welcome to the Extra Paycheck Podcast.
Hi Alex, thanks for receiving me today.
Please tell us a little bit more about yourself and what is that you do as a business.
Sure. Actually, what I like to say is I'm the Chief Personalization Marketing Officer. I don't really like to call myself the CEO. I prefer to stay more in the background. But we're a growth marketing agency specialized in personalization. So what we're doing is we're personalizing every touch point that the user would have with a company. We're helping six-figure companies to achieve their objective, get more conversions, and increase their revenue through all of our personalization marketing. And like we're more focused on some industries, especially insurance, automotive, financial, banking services, telecommunication, real estate, travel, hotels. But personalization is applicable at a large scale, but that's the industries where we would like to focus for the moment.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. And, for me personally, I kind of have an idea what personalization marketing means at large, but I'd love to hear more details, maybe examples of what exactly qualifies as personalization marketing.
Sure. Personalization marketing, what it is, in a quick summary. Basically, you're delivering the right message at the right time to the right customer. So you're kind of giving relevant messages and offerings to either your prospects or your actual customers. So you can do this by tracking your user data, like interests, behaviors, lead stage. Try to figure out their interests, not interests, but preferences, habits, their gender, age, location, stuff like that. So you basically gather all of those data, and then you give a relevant experience that is tailored for their needs. So, for example, for our website, if I take your website or any other affiliate website, it could be that person shows an interest into a specific product. So what you do, instead of showing other products, you can always show more that product on the front page instead of showing just a generic product. So what you can also personalize, you can personalize your content, as I just said, your call to action, your testimonials, based on what the person have shown as an interest. So it can also be based on the lead stage. So for example, if you have a course or if you have a drip campaign or whatever that has different levels, you can decide to show a different call to action or show a different resource, like a lead magnet. For example, the person have downloaded the first lead magnet, but then the second one, like the complementary one or the advanced lead magnet, you can always show that one instead of showing always the same one that you would shown originally.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for explaining that. So as I see it, it's really segmenting your leads and your visitors, let's say, to your website in general. It's really making very small niche segments and targeting them separately.
Definitely. Basically, use tags, segments to use that at the really high level of segmentation. But you can also do it by on videos, on emails, and on paid advertising. I can go further if you want, but it really depends of how deep we want to go today.
Yeah, sure. And how does it work from the technical standpoint? Is it mostly using cookies or something different? Let's say if you're, I'm not, okay, so let's put away the lead stage as in, we're talking about email marketing campaign, right? We're not talking about that. We're talking about the website visitors. how does that work technically? How hard is it to apply, let's say, showing a relevant product or something like that?
Yeah, definitely. Like there's multiple tools on the market. One of them that I like to talk about is called Red Message, and you can have access to it by using the link that I can give you. Is enrich3.com/write message. So with that, what you can do, you can just link your CRM or your marketing automation tool, and it's all made by cookies indeed. But there's also the tagging part where you will manually like place some events on some specific actions on some UTM codes or on some actions that have been taken or page views. So basically that there's a technical part for sure where for some people might need a developer involved. But on the other hand, when it's done, it can be quite friendly in the interface of the tool.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I guess you're the right person to tell me about that or to talk about it. But I've noticed Amazon doing exactly that for quite a while. Whenever I, let's say, purchase a book or even just search for a book on Amazon, the next time I open the page, I'm bombarded with a whole bunch of different books, which are really, really relevant and related to the book that I initially purchased or searched for.
Definitely. Like Amazon is a perfect example of what is personalization. Some people might find it kind of creepy in a way, but I don't think so. I don't think that personalization should be creepy, because what we are doing basically, we're just taking your data and we're putting it at your advantage instead of like taking it and reselling it. not to name names.
Yeah.
And like why it's important for any marketers or any business personalization, it's because you're providing meaningful content and you're providing an individual experience to kind of have a dialogue with your users. So the reality behind it is that it will increase your conversion. It will increase by increasing the interest that the person have to your offer, to your offering. Sorry, and then it will increase your revenue in the end. So it's a win-win situation in a way because you're offering the right experience and you're gaining out of it. And for example, on a website, when someone opens your website, you have like just a few seconds to convince that person that your brand is right for them. So you have to be super quick. You have to have the right message, have the right approach. So that's why it's really important, because if you're not delivering the right content, the right message, the right offer, they're just one click away from leaving. So they might as well try to deliver them the right experience by using personalization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get what you're saying, and sometimes I find it creepy as well, in the sense that, if I see an ad on, let's say, Facebook for something that I looked for on another website, and they're like starting to bombard me with those ads on another platform, I find that not really creepy. I would rather say intrusive in a way. Do you know what I mean by that?
Definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
But if I am on Amazon, let's say, I do prefer seeing ads for products that are really relevant to me and to my interest. And, being a marketer, I know that they are targeting me. I know how that works. And I know what they're doing is actually a really good thing, as you said, for the vendor and for the buyer as well. Because, well, why would I want to see, I don't know, like personal hygiene products for women, right? If I'm never buying that for me, or I never bought that and I have no interest for it, it's a waste of space. It's a waste of time for me. I don't want to scroll through that. I just want to see products that are relevant to me.
That's
so,
right.
I get it. But yeah, I definitely see why people would see it as creepy in certain cases. But as you said, that usually, or pretty much all the time, it does increase conversions, right? Regardless how creepy it might seem to some people.
Exactly. Like, just take a real life example. If you go to a store and the person, let's say, and a good example would be a cosmetic example, or a shoe store, whatever. Like, you go to the store you want to have a specific product, you explain your needs, and then the person come back to you and brings you a pair of shoes that is definitely not what you ask for, and not even the size of your feet. So you'll be like, what the fuck? Like, I didn't ask for that. I asked you for that one, that size. That's all I asked for. Same for if you go in any other store. So, like in real life, people are like, oh yeah, that makes sense to have a personalized experience, or based on what I ask and based on what I want, but based on what I need. So why not doing it online? That's why I don't think it should be considered as being creepy. Yes, we are tracking you in a way, but in the other way, you're also winning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And Hugo, if we go back to personalization marketing, and more precisely about email marketing, doing personalization marketing if you are doing email campaigns, is that something that you could do with any email provider, or are some much better than the others, or are there very specific tools that would really be good for doing that?
Definitely. There is multiple tools. I would say that most marketing automation tools are right to do some type of personalization, but for sure the personalization goes deeper than just the marketing automation. You go into some super narrow and niche segments to create your emails. But also this is one part of the personalization that is, I would say, at the simplest version of it. But you can also go deeper and have what is called dynamic content, where your emails are updated in real time. So, for example, you have a specific sale of your book that will end in 2 hours. So, in the email, every time the person will open the email, the countdown will be updated to the time that is remaining. So, and it can even be a GIF where you'll see the countdown going down and down and down and down. So this can be like super useful for multiple use cases. For example, hotel. If you're booking a flight, you can also know your flight status. If you're having some type of credit with some companies, like a loyalty reward balance, you can see your balance in real time. You can also see the weather where you're where you are going in real time, so the forecast of it. So there's plenty of possibilities doing this. It really depends on like what you want to do and how personalized you want the experience to be for email.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I guess in that case, let's create a scenario here for the listeners who might be new to all of that, and they might be doing some email marketing, and I hope they are, because it's one of the first things that you should be doing if you have a website and if you're trying to get leads or sales of any kind. So let's say this person has an e-commerce website and they're selling baby items like baby clothing and other items related to newborns and small babies. Can you give like one example or a few examples of how they could implement that email marketing campaign where they personalize emails? Like, just give us an example of a scenario of how it would happen from a person coming to the website, and then I guess you'll have to make up a story what they're doing, what they end up doing on the website, and then they receive an email, and how that happens. Give us, I think, 2 different examples, right? 2 different scenarios, and how these 2 different potential clients would be targeted through email differently.
Of course, definitely. I really like the example. It's kind of an interesting challenge. So, that mom, like, first of all, she has a gender. Like she's a female. So just from that, you have some like specific. You can write you can have some copywriting that is more female attractive. I would say it that way. Like, instead of like doing an email that is more masculine, you can do it more feminine, and then you can use more feminine visuals. But this is more like for the structure of the email itself. But then if you use the website content, you can say, okay, that, like, for example, that mom is having a piece of clothes from a kid that is 1 year old, but today that kid is 1 year old, but a year later the kid it'd be 2 years old. So every time the person will come back to the website, for sure it needs to be account based. Like you need to have the email and stuff like that from the person. But you see, like, in any cases, you know that next year you can show that person clothes for a baby of 2 years old instead of a baby of 1 year old. And for this year, what you can show to that person is products that are complementary or that are similar to what the person was looking at. So, for example, if the person was looking at swimwears for babies 1 year old, you can always show the I'm not sure about the name of it, but like the bouillon for babies that the baby can have in the pool, but for 1 year old. So like there's really loads of scenarios that you can have. It really depends on the type of product that you're having, but like the essence of it is to gather all of the information that you can on that person and like see how you can bring it to the next level. Just like that's simple, but like just using the age of the kid, because that person is looking at products that are for 1 year old, and putting it the next level by showing to the 2 years old content next year. Like this is just like really good because there's not that much people are doing it.
Really, that kind of boggles my mind. That's interesting because I remember when I was just getting into this whole online marketing game, and I remember some people definitely making a big news out of it in like 2008, and I'm sure it's been done previously. But I remember back like 10 years ago, a lot of people were giving similar examples and saying how it's incredibly important and everyone should be doing it. So I kind of figured that by now most people would be, well, at least familiar with the concept, but they would actually be applying that. I would think that a lot of online businesses would be applying that. But you're telling me that it's not true, though. A lot of people aren't doing that. Why do you think this is?
That's really interesting because I've noticed that there's loads of blog posts that are talking about, marketing is personalization marketing is really important. It's really the next big thing. But like when you look at it properly, there is, I would say, maybe just 50% of companies are doing it or less. It really depends in which area, in which industry you are. But like personalization can be used as such a high amount of business that like it's really important to think that like you can apply it at just multiple type of flavor. But like it's not, as you said, it's not a new thing. But if you just look at a report from eMarketer in 2015, they said that personalization was increasing engagement from 73%, sorry. And like for an e-commerce store, it was increasing their revenue by 34%. So I don't see why e-commerce people or businesses wouldn't do it. And then this is just a number of an average. So like imagine if you're doing personalization, you can always increase much more. And I'm pretty sure that because I remember you had a conversation with Charles Brun from Dynamic Yield.
Yeah.
And I agree with him that like in 5 years it's going to be the big thing. But in 5 years, it will be kind of different of today. In 5 years, maybe there will be even more AI solutions that will be pushing personalization even further than what it is actually these days.
Mm-hmm. So do you think, in that case, do you think people that start applying personalization to their businesses, online businesses right now, compared to people that will only start in 5 years from now, do you think people that start now will have an advantage or not? Because as you said, and you're probably right, that with time, with all the AI that's been developing incredibly fast, it probably will be easier, or it'll be easier. I'm sure there'll be more solutions. There'll be more, software and more companies helping you with that. it'll be easier in that sense. But if people do that now, do you think they have any kind of advantage?
In a way, yes.
Besides making more money right now, yeah. Like besides that,
no, in a way, yes. Because there is more and more and more regulations and laws about data. For example, just the GDPR about where you should have your data located, and all of the data leaks that are happening these days. I would say that the earlier you start gathering data, the better it is. It's like doing analytics. Like the simplest example I could give you to compare is Google Analytics. If you start putting Google Analytics on your website today versus in 1 month, in a year, or whatever, well, you're going to start gathering those data later on or earlier on. So I would say the earlier you are and the earlier you start to gather data, the better it is, because the higher amount of data you're going to have on your users. So the next time they're going to come back, you're going to know who they are, what they like, what are their interests. Just to go back to the example that I gave about the kid of 1 year old versus 2 years old. Like if you start in a year, you won't know that kid was 1 year old. I mean, you're going to know it because the person looked for a 2 years old product. But what I mean is, like, you won't have all of the advantage of, like, in a year having already personalized the experience for the person that is coming back.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense if you put it this way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's as I mentioned, I've heard of it a long time ago. I think it's really big. I'm surprised not more people are using it. But I had another question for you here, and since you mentioned data and stuff, and since we've seen quite a few big scandals very, very recently about companies gathering data and using it for different purposes. So let's say if it's a smaller e-commerce store, or any website really that's not such a big website as Google or Facebook or any of these huge corporations, smaller websites, how can customers feel safe that their data is being used in legit ways only to help them make a better purchase or make a purchasing decision, rather than having even this small e-commerce store selling their data over to other different stores and different platforms? Like, is there a way to kind of know that or to feel more secure about it?
It's a really tricky question, because indeed, you want your data to be safe, but in my own opinion, having a technical background, I would say these days in a technological era, it's really hard to promise to someone that that their data will be safe, because if someone really wants to have access to a data set from a specific type of company, there's always a way to do it. Like, just if you look at the series on Netflix, Mr. Robot, like you see that, like, flaws are not necessarily just from the technological and digital point. It can also be it can also come from the human point, where someone that is really, I would say, evil in a way, can have access to those data if he really wants to have access to it. But for sure, this is an extreme case. But these days, I would say that, like, most companies are doing their best to protect everyone's data. But, like, I don't think that there's a possibility to say, oh yeah, you're 100% safe. Mm-hmm. There's always like a 1% or something somewhere that, like, you can promise 100% safety. That's my own opinion, but that's how I see it.
I mean, I agree with you with the fact that, data being leaked, as in being hacked, database being broken into, that's one story. Yeah, we can't really, we can't 100% protect us for that. We can't protect ourselves from identity theft or, from credit card fraud. Although there are a lot of measures, there is no 100%. But I mean, how can we be sure that a company, well, let's take your specific agency, right? If I want to hire you guys, how do I know that you're not in it to collect the data from me, your client, and then sell it on to other agencies? I'm not talking about, like, illegal entry into the data, but actually companies and agencies that collect the data, how can I know that they're not selling it on the site from day one?
Definitely. Just about our agency, like we are not getting any data from any of our clients. What we're doing is we're using a tool that we are recommending for the client, for the needs of our clients. And this tool is the one that is just linking. It's like a bridge between what the user have done and the client's database. So all of the data that our clients have, it is their own data on their own platform, on their own tool that they have. It's not something that we have. The only thing that we have access to is like to connect to that tool and connect to that platform to work for our clients. But when our contract, when our work is done, we don't have access to it anymore. So we can't really use any of that data to any other cases because it's data that are the property of our client, and that's how we work. But for sure, when you talk about other tools, it's kind of the same. Like they are kind of they have terms of terms of use that they say that like the data that they have, for sure it is theirs in a way, but like they won't use it against you, or they won't sell it to any of your competitors, which it would make no sense in my own opinion. But I mean, we even there, like what they have written versus what they do, it's something else. Because if you just look at big companies, like I don't want to name names, but like a big social media company can have written in their terms and conditions that your data is theirs, even though it's yours in a way. But after what they do in the back streets, you don't really know.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, yeah, I get you. And you see, I'm asking you because it was the same thing with email marketing. You know, right? How 10, 15 years ago, anybody would give you their email address for any offer, any newsletter. You didn't even have to offer them anything, just a newsletter. Everybody would sign up to newsletters, right? It was like free for all. You could spam as much as you want, in a way.
Yeah.
And what happened is that a lot of companies, their goal was to collect all these subscribers and just sell those lists, those email lists to other companies, whoever wanted to buy them. And I think this contributed a lot to people becoming very secretive and protective of their email address, right? Like personally, I have an email address that I use simply for spam. So if I'm signing up for something that I'm not sure, like I'm not 100% sure they're a super honest and legit company, right? I'll give that email. I have access to it. And I only check it when I need to, let's say, confirm my email subscription, and I never go to it again. And that email box is so full because there have been cases when I would sign up for a simple newsletter and then I would start receiving, promotional emails from 20 different companies that I never signed up to. Right. So this is how you see how, and I kind of have a feeling that the same thing is happening or will be happening on any level where you have access to any kind of data that could be valuable to someone else.
Definitely. I do totally understand you. I'm doing the same, to be honest. I do have a specific email that I'm using only in cases I just don't want to be contacted anymore. But my thought on that is that personalization is not where we're gonna spam anyone. The point is more to deliver the right content to you that is right for you. So we're not like we're basically we're just helping companies to just give the right experience to someone. For example, if you go to the restaurant and you have a wonderful experience that is like you have the chefs that come to your table, or you have the waiter that gives you like the perfect recommendation, and like just make sure that everything is fine for you, that you're not missing anything. Well, for sure, like this will be a memorable experience. That's what we're trying to achieve with personalization. And the point is not, the goal is not to spam anyone. Especially in our agency, we are always like giving the right recommendations for every like email strategies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get it. And it's a really good example that you chose, being restaurants, right? Because restaurants, I find that I think it's really hard to provide good, like perfect service at a restaurant, right? Because they're not careful enough and they don't listen well enough to you and they just don't care about you. Or they're super pushy and they keep bothering you, right? You're trying to finally enjoy your meal and they're like, oh, do you want something else? Or do you want this? It's like, leave me alone, right? And there's only a few restaurants that they come see you like a perfect amount of times or at like a perfect moment when you just run out of water or whatever. And I think that's really hard to do. And I think it's a really good, like easy to understand example, but the same applies to any online business. I think it's really hard to figure out where's that perfect fine line of, providing amazing experience without being, too annoying or without completely ignoring your customer as well.
Definitely. As a foodie, I have loads of experience in restaurants, and I do have some restaurants in mind that like they have delivered good experience. Just the water, like for example, one day I was about to say, oh, the only thing that is missing here, like everything is perfect, but the only thing that is missing here is, and then the person was filling my glass of water. I was like, oh, damn it, like everything is perfect then. So basically, like a good waiter will be someone that is able to feel the vibe of like of the table and understand what is happening. For example, if it's a date, if it's just two friends, if it's another type of situation. So that person, it needs to like be the external eye that will feel what is happening there, and that will always look at if they have a specific need, if there's anything that could be needed. So for sure, it's a really listening. There's a big listening part on it, and that's what we're doing with the data that we use for personalization. Like the data itself is what is like the listening part and the analyzing part of what a waiter would do to your table, just to make sure that like the waiter is understanding what's happening. And then what we do with the data after is like we act as the waiter, and like if we see that you're missing, you don't have any more water, or you're missing anything, we're going to come to your table and say, oh, well, can we do something for you? Do you need some water, whatever? Like this is the personalization part. It is where we come and we say, oh, here's what you're missing. Here's what you need. We're just going to give it to you at the time that you need it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, I get it. We need to hire you to improve our business, to improve our sales. But what about really like, self-employed or very small businesses that are just starting? They really can't invest. They can't hire anyone, at least yet. What's like the easiest way for them to try out personalization marketing, or where can they find like good information that they could use, without going into very expensive solutions as, sure, hiring agencies or buying software or paying for some kind of service? Like what can they do on basic levels that's kind of accessible to everyone?
Without paying any tools.
No, I mean not paying at all, but trying to like not being able, let's say, to spend thousands of dollars. Like they could invest maybe a few $100s a month, but or maybe less. Like they would prefer to do less because they're trying to invest all of it in their product because they're just starting. Like what can they do? Some basic personalization that anyone can do.
Sure. One thing that they can do is there's a tool I mentioned earlier. The URL to have it is enrich3.com//write message. So enrich3.com/RIGHTMESSAGE. So write message. And with that tool, it's not that expensive. It's really in the area of budget that you said. With that tool, you can definitely personalize for small businesses that are using either ActiveCampaign, Infusionsoft, ConvertKit, or Drip. And with that, Like there's loads of resources on their website explaining people how to do this and that. An easy way to do it is by using UTM codes and just by segmenting your URL. Just that is like I would say the easiest part. Or it could be if the person have seen a specific type of page, maybe like you have you're a business, you have two types of audiences. You have, for example, the individual and the business one. Well, you can always say, okay, if the person have gone into the business section of my website, it might be because they are a business. So next time they are going to come back, you can always just redirect them directly in the business section instead of like just still showing the main page. Mm-hmm. So there's loads of ways of doing it, but definitely that there's ways of doing it yourself for any small businesses that can't really afford having the knowledge of a proper agency.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, thanks for sharing. And Hugo, what is your favorite email marketing platform for an online business?
That's a really tricky question. I would say I have two. I would say ActiveCampaign and Infusionsoft, because both are really similar. But Infusionsoft, the advantage of it is that it's offering like a customization part that you don't really have in ActiveCampaign. Like I would compare ActiveCampaign as a PC and Infusionsoft as a PC and ActiveCampaign as a Mac. Like with both, you can go on the web, you can browse the web, you can check your emails, you can do whatever you want in a way. But in one of them, you can personalize it to a really high level, and in the other one, you can just do the basic part that is easy and simple. So it really depends of like how tech savvy you are. If you are not really tech savvy, I would say ActiveCampaign. If you are tech savvy and you want to personalize loads of things, I would say go more for Infusionsoft.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and by the way, guys, we're not pushing any of them here. As you heard, we're not, sure I personally have not used any of those, so I wouldn't be able to recommend one over the other. I've been using Aweber and MailChimp for the longest time. I think they're both great. They both have their negative and positive points, right? But yeah, I can't really recommend or not recommend the ones that I have not tried.
No, definitely. Like there's so many varieties and of tools, and they have so many subtleties. It's really hard to say, oh yeah, that one is the best one. For sure, there is some that are like the rock star of the industry, but doesn't mean that it's the best one for your needs. So I would say look for the tools that are I would say that are right for your needs. Try them out and just pick the one that you feel is the right for you, because even though they have the same features, doesn't mean that the interface will be the right for you. Maybe you'll feel like in one of them you will prefer the interface than the other one. So for sure you need to try it out and see which one you prefer.
Yeah, and I think a good thing, a lot of them I think offer free versions, like free trial versions at least. Yeah. Or like $1 version for a month, which I think is a really good marketing move for a lot of these companies, because as you said, you might just really hate the user interface, and it would be really bad if you spend a whole bunch of money and then you hate using it.
Definitely. Like there's some tools that I in the past I was considering, that was like, oh, that's cool. Like I really like the features of the product, but then when I tried the interface, I was like, no, not really for me. I don't feel comfortable using that tool. And there were another tool that had a bit less features than what I wanted to have, but I really liked the interface, so I just ended up having that one.
Yeah, there you go. All right, Hugo. So one last question I'm going to ask you here. Since you recently started an agency, what would you suggest to people? What would be what would be your most important suggestion to people who are just thinking of starting a business of any sort, either a service-based or starting their own e-commerce store or anything really online? What would be the most important advice from you to them?
I would say try to get some mentor outside of your business itself. People that will be experienced to give you some of their knowledge and guide you. For sure, you need to have a little some, like, if you're starting and you have no incomes, I would say have some saving to make sure that you can last for a bit. And I would say just do it, get as much knowledge as you can from it, and for sure it's kind of a trial and error thing. There's no like one solution that fits them all. It's more like every business, every situation is different, and an idea can be different when it's executed by two different persons. So even though you are in a competitive business, in a competitive market, with the same type of niche or whatever, the way you are going to approach the market will be different from someone else, and this can be the thing that will make you succeed or not. So, like, I would say, just try it out.
All right, that's awesome, Hugo. And before you go, if people want to reach out or learn more about your agency, maybe hire you, where should they go?
Sure. My email is Hugo, Hugo at enrich3.com. And basically the website is the same, enrich3.com. So if you have any questions, I'm not that far. My emails are always open.
All right. Awesome. And thank you for sharing all that information, all the tips and strategies. And thank you for coming up on the show.
It's a pleasure to be there and to share some of my knowledge with your audience.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Extra Paycheck Podcast. Head over to extrapodcast.com/157. This is where I'll be putting up show notes page for today's episode, as well as all the links and resources that we mentioned today with Hugo. Also, head over to extrapodcast.com/iTunes in order to subscribe to the show on iTunes, as well as extrapodcast.com/Spotify in order to follow the show on Spotify. If YouTube is your thing, head over to extrapodcast.com/YouTube and you could subscribe to the channel there as well. Once again, thank you for tuning in, and I'll talk to you next Monday.